We have lab-grown brains playing Doom and flying planes. This is the American dream. Welcome back to the show. You are now tuned into Inverted World. And my fellow Americans, let me tell you, there won't be boots on the ground in Iran. There will be human brain cells grown on a microchip that learned to play Doom on the ground. So you are safe. The future is looking bright. But I will say that the disembodied rat brains that are flying a simulated F-22 fighter jet right now, they're pretty upset because the human brain cells on a microchip playing Doom, they're hogging up all the spotlight. It's a bummer. It's a bummer. But that's what happens. You know, that is 21 years old, that story about the rat brains flying a plane. And I don't know why all of a sudden the internet exploded over the weekend about the lab-grown brains playing Doom. But if you've watched this show, we talked about that about a year ago. But something's going on, and I'm going to tie it into something that I believe is why the narrative all of a sudden, you know, they inject things into the algorithm, I think, as a predictive programming element to just prepare your brain for what is to come. These dystopian nightmares that these mad scientists are breeding in underground laboratories. And, you know, I saw this other thing, too, before we get to this. We'll do a little... We'll brush up on some old news concerning organoid brains or organid brains. So I don't want to mispronounce your names, you clump of cells that should not be enslaved in some laboratory right now, learning to play Doom, or hooked up to a computer as they try to build a supercomputer out of human tissue. That is happening. But I saw this, a migratory bird just shattered world records flying 8,425 miles non-stop across the Pacific without landing once. And my goodness, their batteries sure are improving on these fake birds. And did you know that fake birds and most Joe Bidens are remotely piloted by lab-grown rat brains that are plugged into a computer? Well, you do now. That's great. And that's everything that is going on in the world right now that matters. I mean, there's war, sure, but we're dealing with lab-grown rat brains that are being trained to kill you and take your job and play your video games. I mean, how many people do you think you've talked to on like a video during a video game that actually are just lab-grown rat brains with an AI voice? I mean, maybe Grok isn't 100,000 Indians in a sweatshop typing really fast. Maybe, just maybe, it's 100,000 lab-grown rat brains typing really fast in a laboratory / sweatshop. But you guys, if you don't exist terminally online, like as if you were a lab-grown rat brain plugged into the internet 24/7. This is how they see us, by the way. You know, by they, I mean the tech vampires, our overlords from Silicon Valley. They see us like we're just tissue, we're just brains that they can train. So let's just touch up on this. We'll read a new article about an old story as we try to figure out why this has become a thing again. Nothing's organic on the internet. I'm sorry. There's nothing. The white dress, is it white? Is it blue? Whatever. To me, that was a psyop. Tiffany Gomez, shout out to you. You're a nice lady. You did ghost us on this show. You did. But we've interacted online. She's part of the psyop. I don't even know if she's real. I don't think that's really her that we're talking to, by the way. Don't tell her I said that. I think she's a clone. Okay. I think she was created by Spirit Halloween. The part of Spirit Halloween that is a branch of the CIA, which might be all of Spirit Halloween. But you know, they both make masks, okay? And I think they just give the older masks, the out of commission masks, to Spirit Halloween. You'll remember that we went over the lady who once sat in the Oval Office with, I think it was Bush. I think it was H.W. Bush. And she was in charge of making masks and disguises for the CIA. And there's a picture of her sitting in the Oval Office with the president at the time, which was H-Dubs. And she actually was in blackface. But I guess they have a workaround because she wasn't technically in blackface. She didn't paint the face on. She was wearing the mask of a black man. And the president, I guess, just thought it was some random visitor. I'm not sure the backstory of this because it's kind of hard to believe that they just allowed a random man. I know, right? Especially a black man, right? I know you were thinking that into the Oval Office, like an Obama, you know. But he was there. She was there, hiding in plain sight with this black man's mask on. It was either black man or black woman, I forget now. But and then she takes it off mid-meeting to surprise. You think that would be alarming in terms of for security purposes. But I guess when your boss is former CIA as well, they're just used to this insanity. But anyway, that's all for me to say. A long way for me to say Tiffany Gomez is probably a PSYOP created by the Spirit Halloween division of the CIA. And then to go back to what I was originally saying is nothing is organic on the internet. The algorithm is constantly tweaked in ways that it wants to. It is inauthentically performing what seems like viral moments, and maybe some of them are. Some of them used to be, but it is a form of MK Ultra. And then to go back to the initial thing, how I got here, we're talking about lab-grown rat brains, and there are lab-grown human brains. But this story was popping off over the weekend. 800,000 brain cells in a petri dish playing Doom shocks the internet. Not if you watch Inverted World. We've been here. And this is old news, but let's revisit it as we go into other news that came out this weekend that I think is adjacent to the lab-grown rat brains playing Doom and flying planes. In a groundbreaking experiment, researchers have achieved a remarkable feat that blurs the lines between biology and technology. Cortical Labs has cultivated 800,000 brain cells in a petri dish, harnessing that neural activity to play the game Doom. This breakthrough has sent shockwaves through the scientific community and the internet, sparking intense interest and debate. Internet reacts to brain cells here. Okay, let's take a look. The internet is in awe of the astonishing video of brain cells in a petri dish playing Doom. Cortical Labs, an Australian biotech firm, has revealed in a YouTube video that they've made a significant breakthrough in biological computing. Back in 2021, they taught 800,000 brain cells in a petri dish to play the classic game Pong. Their CL1 system now plays Doom, earning the title of world's first code-deployable biological computer. That really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Pong was much simpler. There was a direct relationship. The ball went up, the paddle went up. It was a direct input-output relationship, explained the team. Doom, however, was much more complex. The team noted that they had to translate the game's digital world into the biological language of neurons, electricity. The firm used microelectrode arrays to stimulate and read neurons' electrical activity. I think that's also part of the stuff that comes through the window from the satellite that's been targeting me with their microelectrode arrays. Thank you very much, DARPA. While there's still a lot of work left to do on this, the exciting thing is we've solved the interface problem, said the team. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried about the 800,000 lab-grown rat brains playing Doom. Keeps me up at night. We have to interact with these cells in a real time and train them and shape their behavior to do things even like Doom. That, again, this is how they think of you. When you hear like Zuckerberg talking about the algorithm in when he's testifying, he's completely lying because he wants you addicted to his digital fentanyl. It's not until we get whistleblowers from inside Meta who are then testifying who tell you that actually it sounds just like this. how they are using the algorithm to interact with you to have in real time to shape them into doing certain things behaviorally. For instance, the Meta whistleblower told Congress that the algorithm, and this is just one example that I like to use, but it's one of many, infinite decisions that the algorithm is making based on your behaviors. So for instance, in Meta, if a young girl, I think they said like around the age of 16, 17, puts up a selfie, then deletes it, the algorithm is then triggered to be like, I think this girl must be sad because if she put something up, maybe she didn't get enough likes. Maybe she didn't get the likes she wanted. Maybe she needed help. Maybe she needed a better picture. And how can we help her? We can send her advertisements. We'll send them right to her right now. We'll trigger the algorithm. She's tripped over the tripwire of the ad sales department where we got to sell things. And we're going to send her images of maybe purses or things that are things based on her past usage of Meta products. And then we'll hit her up. And then because we believe here at Meta that when you're sad, you want to buy. And when you buy, you make us happy and you're distracted. You're not worried about anything else other than filling the void inside of you that we have opened bigger and bigger because of the vast isolation that our products bring you. Despite having the illusion of connecting you to more and more people constantly, 24/7, you are actually more alone than you have ever been. Thanks to our products here at Meta. You can, however, wear our glasses and they will record everything. If you wear them while you happen to be changing in a dressing room, perhaps, we will film that and we will send it to our slaves in Africa who will then review it. But not for like your safety or anything, just to like understand how we can keep doing this better and train our technologies to better surveil you. But yeah, that Meta whistleblower did say that, and that they target individuals based on behavioral patterns. Sounds a lot like trying to train 800,000 rat brains that were grown in a lab and plugged into Doom. Doom. It was a big game when I was growing up. I did not have a computer, if you can't tell. That's why I'm not very technologically savvy. I didn't have my first computer until I had a laptop when I was probably like 20. And that was fun. And that's I got to go to the youth center growing up, and I played some Carmen Sandiego, and I got to use Napster. I think the first song I ever downloaded was a Marilyn Manson cover of a Doors song. I forget what song it was. It's got a number in it, like 23 something or other. You guys in the chat will probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's actually a really good cover. It's gonna bother me now because it's phenomenal. And you don't see it around. I don't even think it's on any streaming platforms. Well, I can't find it quickly, and I'm still typing with a bum left hand, although it is much better. Thank you to everyone who reached out and said they're going to say a prayer for me, and the bleeding has stopped. It took a few days, despite the stitches. It's in a spot that just, you move it a lot, and when you sleep, you're hitting it, and who knows what in your sleep. I wake up, I'm like, oh man, I'm bleeding again. But it's all good. They're trying to tell me People Are Strange is a song that he did, and in the end, but that is not the song. Anyway, that was one of my first experiences with a computer and Napster, and at a youth center. It took maybe like 3 months to download that song. The video posted by Curiosity on X, which is formerly Twitter, if you didn't know, has left netizens amazed by the breakthrough achieved by the biotech firm. We need a competition between the Petri dish and DSP on who can beat Doom first. My money is on the Petri dish, suggested an X user. We got it. This needs to go. We can't be doing this kind of stuff. We can't be doing it because they're coming for you next. I'm going to show you why in just a few stories. Crazy what a clump of cells can do, commented another. That's the beginning of a Terminator-like plot, joked a science enthusiast. Despite the revolutionary breakthrough, Cortical Labs has clarified that the cells playing Doom won't be beating human players anytime soon. Oh. It probably beat me, because the last game I played was Earthworm Jim for Sega Genesis. I loved Sega Genesis. So in terms of those disembodied rat brains that were jealous of all the spotlight that the lab-grown brains playing Doom were getting over the weekend, I just thought, let's give them just a bit of their due, because this is 21 years old from The Guardian. The neurons are growing on top of a multi-electrode array and form a living brain that's hooked up to a flight simulator on a desktop computer. It's just like me. When information on the simulated aircraft's horizontal and vertical movements are fed into the brain by stimulating the electrodes, the neurons fire away in patterns that are then used to control its body. Body is in quotes for now. And its body is, its quote-unquote body is the simulated aircraft. So they are basically using the simulation of an F-22 as the digital vessel for these lab-grown rat brains. We have a quote here. It's as if the neurons control the stick in the aircraft. They can move it back and forth and left and right, said Thomas DeMarce, a professor of biomedical engineering at the University of Florida, who has been working on the project for more than a year. You think he talks to the brains? I guarantee you he walks in every morning, turns on the switch. He's like, cover your eyes. And he's like, I love you guys. How you doing? Do you have any dreams? Are you keeping up with your dream journals? I know you don't have hands, but you have brains, and we can plug you into the Neuralink over here, and I can read your thoughts. This is probably how they're also learning how to transcribe brain activity. You know, another thing Meta has been doing for a while. Well, not technically translating it yet, but experimenting with it and learning how to do it. Death and the inside of your brain, our thoughts, are the last frontier. In the physical world, they'll create new final frontiers, for sure. More from this man who talks to rat brains for a living. The electrodes allow us to record the activity from the neurons and stimulate them so we can listen to the conversation among the neurons and also input information back into the neural network. And, you know, I'm joking about this guy and his brains and his love for them. But you guys will remember, longtime viewers of the show will remember what happened with the lady who was giving acid to the dolphins in the NASA project down in Florida and fell in love with the dolphin and had some dalliance, we'll say, with the dolphin. I'm not going to get too graphic. I don't want to get into it. It is disturbing. Those of you watching know. And if you don't know, go look up what that lady did with the dolphin as they took acid together for NASA. So that was a long time ago, right? And look, I don't want to slander you, Thomas. I just get worried about mad scientists. And they're framing you here like you're a nice guy. I bet you are. But I don't appreciate, nor do I respect this line of work. I'm sorry. I mean, you can say the same for me. Look at me. I get it. But I don't think we should be growing brains in labs and training them to do things. To me, this seems like it's going to go a pretty bad route. For instance... Okay, for instance, all weekend we've been having debates online about who actually killed all those innocent girls in the schoolhouse in Iran. We talked about this, I think, briefly last week. You know, as the news broke at the very beginning, it was everyone saying, not everyone. There was a large amount of people saying it was the U.S. or Israel that did it, and then it was immediate backlash from the super MAGA loyalist influencer type people that basically operate online as if they were one of 800,000 lab-grown rat brains saying, oh, it was actually Iran backfiring. And then there's reports from places like DropSite, which I I like reading them, but I think they're actually funded by Soros to some degree, some subset of Soros. So you just got to read everything you can if you care about this stuff and you kind of want to figure out what is the truth or what is like the semblance of truth. Because everyone's got a preoccupation, like CBS being Barry Weiss, being Free Press, being attached to Larry Ellison's son. Was that David Ellison? There is always some small degree of separation between the person claiming to tell you objective truth in the media and the person who's paying them to be subjective on their behalf for the narrative that they want to be dominant. So anyway, there have been reports over the weekend from multiple outlets, many of which I don't trust, like the Times, saying that according to them, the missile they captured an image of hitting the schoolhouse was a Tomahawk, which would have been something we use. And according to the reports, that Israel doesn't use and that Iran does not use. Then there's people saying, well, this video was captured after the initial impact of whatever hit the schoolhouse. So then they're using that to discredit the fact that they saw a Tomahawk. So then I guess the argument would be from those people that both places hit it. If that is a Tomahawk, and it is true that it is only the U.S. that uses those. But you see, this is post-reality, okay? This is what it's like being one of 800,000 rat brains grown in a lab trying to figure out the truth in the world, in the outside physical world. It is difficult. So I was going down that rabbit hole just to dial it back now to where we are in terms of growing AI and the monstrosities of the dystopia that the tech vampires want us in. If it was the United States, it could have been, and we alluded to this last week, it could have been Claude AI that plotted out these places to bomb. And now that would be a very strange new thing, sort of, for us, at least openly. But it is a lot like Lavender AI that Israel uses, both of which I think powered by Palantir or something Palantir-like, but probably Palantir, if we're being honest. So insane to think about. If it is Claude, and if you didn't watch last week where I talked about how Hegseth had a map behind him while giving a talk about the places they bombed. And if you look at those places and match it up, the schoolhouse is at one of those locations. And so my feeling is that it was probably the United States, and that is horrific. Whoever did it, horrific. And I think the place was hit twice. So sad, such a nightmare. From what I'm reading, and it's so hard to know because we are in the fog of war and everything's propaganda. So there's things that would want to be that would be written to gain sympathy from the reader because they need their narrative to be the dominant one. So the one I was reading about to tell you about was about how the place was allegedly hit, whoever did it, and then it was hit again. But by the time it was hit again, it was 20 minutes later and people were now there to try to help. So you can imagine in that awful, awful fear of being there already and what they were seeing, and over 100, I think it was like 170 dead girls. I mean, just horrific. And then just to get hit again. That is horrible, total war crime. And, but I think every president's a war criminal. And, but I also I understand the need to be prepared to fight, if we get attacked. And then, just to go through every side of my brain here, of my rat brain, it's like, okay, then who attacked us? And is that real? That's why it's so tough. Who are you getting intel from? Trump's surrounded by a lot of people who I think they don't have our best interests at heart. Obviously Lindsey Graham does not care about you. I know I've swerved too far from rat brains, but you can see how this is all connected because the things they're studying right now and with these lab-grown brains, the goal with a lot of these experiments is most of the time, how can we use this to fight? How can we use this for war? So I was going to say, I understand fighting. I understand war. I don't want war. I am against war. Sometimes you are attacked. You have to fight back. But then who did the attacking? Was it a false flag? Do we trust our intel? And we have decades of being able to say no to those answers, or those questions rather. And that's awful. awful place to be in, and I think it's by design. You know, these complex systems, they will fall apart quickly. You know, they remove one thing, boom. We so rely upon our technology today, and by I mean everything, the satellites, the TV, the media, the Pentagon, the stock market, like all these things. You remove one thing, it collapses. And it's almost like they built this complex system to compartmentalize all the insanity that they use, or how they launder money, how they hide major projects. But like, going back now to this, MK Ultra was started in labs as an idea on how to create super soldiers and how to wash your brain, right? And now we're back to brains. It's always about that. In some form or another, it's always about how can we tweak the brain of our own people and the people that we're fighting to make them dumb, to make them have a clean slate. This is the tabula rasa, a clean slate, so we can turn them into Manchurian candidates, so they can do our bidding, so they can forget what we've asked them to do, so we can trigger them into doing something we've asked them to do secretly that they don't even know in the front of their consciousness about. And now they're developing these new brains that they can grow and turn into computers. They can train to do, because it sounds like I'm joking, I guess, when I say that they're going to fly drones, but that is, this is inevitable. Seriously. When they've turned you effectively into just gray goo that has just a hint of life, this gray goo, like vat of flesh that's in a tube, living in a little coffin apartment, some semblance of eyes. You're plugged into the internet now. You're just like an obese, lab-grown rat brain, and they deliver everything to you right to your doorstep in your 15-minute city, or by a drone. The drone could fly in. You don't eat anymore. You get slop through tubes, and maybe if you're lucky to have somewhat of flesh thick enough to be poked, they'll send in their bugs with their vaccines to give you whatever drugs you're on, and through their proboscis, their robot proboscis, and then outside it'll be uninhabitable. It'll be war everywhere. Just all these woolly mammoths will be back. Pterodactyls will be back. Robots will be fighting. And you won't want to go outside. You won't care about the outside, because everything will be much more beautiful when you're plugged into the internet and the paradise of your choice. I think that's really what they want for you. I think if you look at how they talk about the way you use, how they want you addicted to Instagram, Twitter, like Elon saying we can give everyone robots and make everything easier. And whenever he says that, he doesn't really say, I've never seen him say you have more time with your family. He talks about being pro-family, but his idea of pro-family is like just impregnating a bunch of women all across the planet with secret babies, and then not being a present father at all unless he needs them for a photo op at the White House. But he typically says you'll have more time to play your video games and to be online. You don't have to drive, I think that is antithetical to human nature. That is not good for us. We are not supposed to be living the life of a lab-grown rat brain, because it's not a life. Let's get back to this guy. That was some tangent. I am sorry. But this is what happens when you're talking about rat brains in the University of Florida. Granted, this is just a handful of neurons in a dish, said the professor. This is an assistant professor at Georgia Tech's neuroengineering laboratory. It isn't a full-blown brain. Keep that in mind. It isn't a full-blown brain. It doesn't have a real body, although they just said earlier it kind of does. It's just digital. But with this kind of system, you can literally watch these things compute, and you have a chance to learn how the brain does its computation. So, moving on from that, let's see here. was crazy. So the news broke this week. Let me see if I can get the newest one up first. And we'll kind of dive deeper into this. I think this is why brains were going viral this weekend. Whether or not this story came out and then people started to remember other brain experiments. Let's see. Let's check it out. Let's play it first. I thought I was going to say something, but how about I narrate it instead? I'll try to do it. This music's probably copywritten somehow. We're looking at it. We're being shown a 3D rendering of a park. There is a little house there. There are fake trees that look like they have clouds stuck to the top of them and fake hills. This is very like N64 Mario. There's a sandbox. And the camera's changing, showing us a new view, getting closer into the sandbox where it zooms in on a digital rendering of a fruit fly. And as it is showing us a fruit fly, it is then showing us to the right on a split screen here the map of a fruit fly's brain. We have a simultaneous brain emulation here. As it walks around, this looks huge because it's zoomed in so close. But we know fruit flies are very small and very pesty. And it's showing you that as the fruit fly is walking around, how it is affecting its brain. And now as it's taking a drink of some sort of fruit on the ground, the brain reacts accordingly. So from this weekend, from Dr. Alex Wisner Gross, that's at AlexWG on Twitter, the first multi-behavior brain upload. The singularity has belonged exclusively to artificial minds until now. For decades, whole brain emulation has been the tantalizing counterpart to artificial intelligence. Copy a biological brain, neuron by neuron, and synapse by synapse, and run it. Today, for the first time, I am releasing a video from a company I helped found, Eon Systems PBC, demonstrating what we believe is the world's first embodiment of a whole brain emulation that produces multiple behaviors. In 2024, Eon senior scientist Philip Hsu and collaborators published in Nature a computational model of the entire adult fruit fly brain, containing more than 125,000 neurons and 50 million synaptic connections built from the flywire connectome and machine learning predictions of neurotransmitter identity. That model predicted motor behavior at 95% accuracy, but it was disembodied, a brain without a body. You see how this is connecting, right, to what we were previously talking about. The thing we just read about the not having a body for these lab-grown rat brains is 21 years old. Activation without physics, motor outputs with nowhere to go. That should make you think about those lab-grown rat brains. Now, the brain has somewhere to go. Building on previous work, including Hsu et al.'s whole brain computational model, the NeuroMechFly version 2 embodied simulation framework, and Osdill's et al.'s research on centralized brain networks underlying body part coordination, this demonstration integrates Eon's connectome-based brain emulation with a physics-simulated fly body in MuJo-Co. The result, multiple distinct behaviors driven by the emulated brain's own circuit dynamics. Sensory input flows in, neural activity propagates through the complete connectome. Motor commands flow out, and a physically simulated body executes the output, closing the loop from perception to action for the first time in a whole brain emulation. Guarantee you they've done this to bigger animals or bigger insects, if not humans already. But they got to tell you it's fruit flies first. I guarantee this. They've probably got some chimera, and I hate to say this, but I believe this is true, from some stolen, murdered baby from a Planned Parenthood. We know, we've seen the footage of Planned Parenthood sacrifices that have been taken, and sorry, I cut out for a second. Those parts have been taken from these murdered babies and experimented on in laboratories. We have seen this. We know this, okay? So I'm just saying, I have a gut feeling about scientists experimenting on those as well, which is a nightmare. That is a nightmare. So they've built a body, okay? They found a way to make the body and the fake brain work in unison. So it's coming to a town near you, if it's not already there. You know, remember Bill Gates, what he's done. We saw in the Epstein files the robot mosquitoes. Now, I'm not joking about these fake proboscis, these robot proboscis. This is life. This is what they're doing. They got to eat up your farmland so they can remote control their terror drones that are being remotely piloted by their lab-grown brains. Back to the news about the fruit fly brain. This is a qualitative threshold, not an incremental one. Prior work in this space has either modeled brains without bodies or animated bodies without brains. It's a great sentence. Modeled brains without bodies or animated bodies without brains. I think, therefore I am. Deep Mind and Janelia's recent Mujoko fly used reinforcement learning, not connectome-derived neural dynamics, to control a simulated body. The implications... Sorry, I want to skip something. No one has previously demonstrated a complete emulated brain derived from a biological connectome driving a physically simulated body through multiple naturalistic behaviors. Naturalistic behaviors. Are you naturalistically behaving today? Or is your social credit score so low that we have to send the tornado machine after you? Very sorry. We appreciate your feedback, but we are being forced to activate the earthquake and tornado machines. Godspeed. The implications cascade upward. Eon's mission is to produce the world's largest connectome and highest fidelity brain emulation, targeting a complete digital emulation of a mouse brain and laying the groundwork for eventual human scale emulation. Now, okay, we talked about the lab-grown brains for the beginning of this episode. Let's go back and think about how 2 weeks ago we were talking about Meta developing a way for dead people to have social media presence by emulating them posthumously. See how this is all connected, right? You see how this all comes together? My 800,000 lab-grown rat brains are thirsty. At least it's brighter at night now. That extra hour of daylight is wonderful. A mouse brain contains roughly 70 million neurons, 560 times the fly's count, and the team is currently amassing the connectomic and functional recording data needed to attempt at combining expansion, microscopy, I'm just making up words, to map every neural connection with tens of thousands of hours of calcium and voltage imaging to capture how those networks activate in living tissue. They could probably teach these lab-grown rat brains how to pronounce words better than me and quicker. And at any moment now, I will probably be replaced by one of the 800,000 lab-grown rat brains. So it was nice knowing you. Thank you very much. So it ends here with saying, Eon is scaling its team and infrastructure to attempt the mouse and human brains next. So we're just going to go from mouse to human. Those who want to follow or support, and we know it says here, which I appreciate, he has a financial interest in this company. So then I was just like, okay, why the fruit fly? So I went back to last year from UC Berkeley. Researchers simulate an entire fly brain on a laptop as human brain next. You know what? Before we do that, let's just do some basics here. I thought it'd be funny to ask AI to tell me about brains and fruit flies. So I just typed it into Google, and I don't typically click on the AI summary, but I was like, you know what, for the sake of how dystopian this is, let's hear what the robots have to say. The robots that may or may not be powered by some lab-grown brain. To understand how the human brain is similar to a fruit fly's brain, consider the following points. Both brains are organized into distinct regions that control specific functions. Okay, that's a brain. They share similar neural circuits for processing sensory information. Both brains utilize neurotransmitters to communicate between neurons. Learning and memory mechanisms are present in both species, albeit at different complexities. Genetic studies show conserved genes that influence brain development in both organisms. Both brains exhibit plasticity, allowing adaptation to new experiences. There was something else here I don't know if it's in this article, but I saw that like they think, okay? This is all science, so they don't know, but they think that if they can study how a fruit fly can forget a smell or remember a smell, that can, according to the scientists, inform the way they can map a human brain on how it responds to trauma. So they're making a pretty large leap there of like the olfactory memory of a fruit fly can be somewhat similar and observable to a human brain experiencing trauma. To me, that seems ridiculous. But I guess it's a start, right? Small steps. The human brain contains approximately 87 billion neurons on average. Each of these cells make thousands of different connections to facilitate communication across the brain. Unless you're mine and you can't read. And there's certain things that are unplugged. Neural communication is thought to underlie all brain functions, from experiencing and interpreting the world around you to remembering those experiences and controlling how your body responds. But in this vast network of neural communication, precisely who is talking to whom, and what is the consequence of those individual conversations? Understanding the details surrounding neural communication and how it's shaped by experience is one of the many focuses of neuroscience. However, this is complicated by the sheer number of microscopic connections there are to study in the human brain, many of which are often in flux, and that available tools are unable to provide adequate resolution. As a consequence, many scientists like me have turned to simpler organisms such as the fruit fly. Fruit flies, though pesky in the kitchen, are invaluable in the laboratory. Their brains are built in remarkably similar ways to those of humans. Importantly, scientists have developed tools that make fly brains significantly easier to study with a resolution that hasn't been achieved in other organisms. My colleague, Gilad Barnia, a neuroscientist at Brown University, and his team spent over 20 years developing a tool to visualize all of the microscopic connections between neurons within the brain. Neurons communicate with each other by sending and receiving molecules called neurotransmitters between receptor proteins on their surface. Barnia's tool, TransTango, I don't really like the sound of this, translates the activation of specific receptor proteins into gene expression that ultimately allow for visualization, which is, I think, a part of how they were talking about. They think they can observe the memory of within a fruit fly's brain in terms of smell. My team and I use Trans-Tango to visualize all the neural connections of a learning and memory center called the mushroom body in the fruit fly brain. And there's a cool GIF here of the blue patterns within a fruit fly's brain. It's a video starting close to the face of the fly and moves back using genetics to express different proteins within neurons to visualize them. And green indicates the neuron of interest, red indicates the neuron it talks to, and blue indicates all other brain cells. So here we have a cluster of approximately 4 neurons labeled green. Get out of here, ad. No. It receives messages from the mushroom body. The mushroom body. And that is the L-shaped structure labeled blue in the center of the fly brain. You can step through the brain and see all the other neurons they likely communicate with, labeled red. The cell bodies of the neurons reside on the edges of the brain. Okay. So there was something here I thought I wanted to share that was interesting. It wasn't in the story. But the other reason they like experimenting on fruit flies is their life cycle so fast. They die quick, I guess, obviously. And they study those brains and the lifespan of those brains. So they're getting a lot of information quickly. And now back to 2024. By digitally mapping the whole brain of a fruit fly, scientists hope to gain insight into human brain disorders. As a large team of scientists recently completed the assembly of a complete wiring diagram of the adult fruit fly brain, Phil Shu, we heard about him, decided to simulate their massive circuit. So, all right, I just want to move on here. Let me see if they say anything in this video really quick. It might be interesting. Nope, just showing us a fruit fly again. Sad looking fruit fly. Has like eyelashes. They're trying to anthropomorphize this fruit fly to, I guess, like, so that future donors feel obligated. Oh, this is so cute, this fruit fly. We should give it money. We want to know what it's thinking. I hope it loves me. No, we're good. We're good, bro. And where does this lead? It leads to the other realm of brain, body, computing, in these mad scientists' laboratories. This is from Harvard Science Review. This is from this year, but we've gone over this in the past. I figure let's throw this in the mix while we're here, okay? Beyond Silicon, the dawn of organid intelligence. The modern supercomputer is a marvel of engineering, capable of exascale calculations that drive our climate models and generative AI. But it has a fatal flaw. It is stupidly inefficient. This is also how they talk about us. To match the processing power of a single human brain, which operates on about 20 watts of power, roughly the same as a dim light bulb, a silicon-based supercomputer requires upwards of 10 megawatts. This is an energy differential of 6 orders of magnitude. You know what this reminds me of, actually, what I've been saying this whole episode about this is how they talk about us? And I haven't even mentioned Sam Altman. Let me see if I can pull up this quote. Let me see if I can find this quote really quick, because he just said something funny. He was basically saying, if I can't find it, how humans, they take up a lot of energy, and it takes up less energy to train AI. He obviously believes in evolution, but he talks about how it takes a lot of work and power and energy, time to train a human, whereas with AI, look at it, just go quickly. Well, there's a million things about Sam Altman. I'm not gonna go through them all, but that went viral like a week ago of him saying this with his robot face. As Moore's law slows and the energy demands of AI skyrocket, a crisis we have documented extensively, physicists are hitting the heat wall. We can only shrink transistors so much before they become unstable. The solution, according to a growing coalition of biophysicists and engineers at institutions like Johns Hopkins and Cortical Labs, we've just been talking about them, is not better silicone, it is wetware. Okay, let that sink in. Into your brain, into your human brain. I think most of you listening are most likely human. Let that sink into your wetware. Because organoid or organid intelligence is the intersection of tissue engineering and computer science. It involves growing three-dimensional clusters of human neurons called brain organoids, derived from stem cells. These are not just flat cultures in a petri dish. These are complex 3D structures that mimic the architecture of the developing human cortex, to complete with synaptic connections and the capacity for plasticity. So they can learn. They can learn. But a brain in a jar does nothing without input. To turn these organoids into computers, scientists place them in microelectrode arrays, MEAs. These chips act as the interface, sending electrical signals, which is input, to the organoid and recording the neuronal firing patterns, which is just output. The proof of concept arrived with a splash when Cortical Labs demonstrated that their system, dubbed Dish Brain, that's a good schoolyard diss out there. Hey, Dish Brain, you're acting like a Dish Brain. Dish Brain. It's also a good band name. Maybe like a 90s alt, Dish Brain. They opened for like Hole or something. Or, what was that band's name? Chumbawamba. On tour now with the one and only Dish Brain. But this Dish Brain, we didn't know this when we first read it earlier in this episode, but it turns out the Dish Brain was the one playing Pong. That's affectionate. Is Dish Brain now playing Doom? I think so. Dish Brain playing Doom. Dish Brain with an album called Doom is pretty sweet. This wasn't simple programming. The neurons were not told the rules. Instead, they were fed electrical feedback, a predictable, organized signal when they hit the ball, and a chaotic, random signal when they missed. Driven by the free energy principle, the biological imperative to minimize surprise and unpredictability, the neurons self-organized. They physically rewired their synaptic connections to master the game in 5 minutes. It took DeepMind's reinforcement learning AI 90 minutes to do the same. Why does this matter? Because biology is the ultimate efficiency engine. I love how they have to do all this stuff just to be like, the human is like, there's nothing better than a human. And maybe they know that and they're just trying to replicate it, and that's their end goal. I mean, it is their end goal. It's to just keep creating us because they want to be God. They want to play God. They want to try to defeat God. They want to be a lower G God. They want to be immortal. They want to manufacture heaven in this dystopia, and they're going to try to live forever in their little tech vampire, transhumanist, globalist empire. It's going to be great. Biological brains process information in parallel with memory and computation happening in the same location. If we can scale OI, we could theoretically build biocomputers that run complex AI models using a fraction of the energy of today's data centers. Oh, so that's great news, guys. That's great news. If we just keep growing human brain in a lab, we don't need data centers. I think that's what they're saying here. Am I totally misrepresenting this article? I think that's what they're saying. Biological brains process information. Okay. If they can scale that up, okay, then make biocomputers. Yep. It will use a fraction of the energy of today's data centers. We just need to make giant human brains and put those on the farmland. We need more biocomputers, everybody. The ethical frontier, however, because of course, you remember the guy who bioengineered something with children in China. I forget exactly what he did, but he did something to these kids that was super unethical in utero, and he went to jail for it. And when he got out, and then last year, I think he said that ethics is the only thing standing in the way of him in the true progress in science. So let's think about ethics. This technology sits on the razor's edge of bioethics. It sure does. doesn't it? We are not just building chips, we are building neural tissue. At what point does an organid become sentient? Currently, these clusters have about 50,000 cells, roughly the brain power of a cockroach. Speaking of the apocalypse, I mean, maybe that's the things that will survive the apocalypse will be cockroaches and the organids that we made in labs. I guess if we've got to put them in a body, we've got to put them in an indestructible body, because they're not just going to survive on their own. These, wetware biocomputers. But it says here they feel nothing. But as we scale to millions of neurons, the question of suffering becomes non-trivial. The Baltimore Declaration toward OI has already begun to map out the ethical guardrails. We are likely decades away from commercial bioprocessor in your laptop. Yo, you guys got that new laptop that has the human brain inside of it, that can hook up to my brain, that has a computer inside of it? Do you have the computer with the brain inside of it so I can hook it up to my brain with a computer inside of it? That is the future. I don't think that's decades away. I think they say that just to not scare people. They think they already have this in some places. I mean, this is Ray Kurzweil, right? Like his dream of wanting to be being able to upload his consciousness. I don't think that is possible. Even if they think they can actually do it, I don't think you can just transplant a soul or a consciousness. But they don't see it like that. They see us all as parts. They see us as computers, you know? I was watching some interview with someone this weekend, one of these guys, and they just talk about us like we're computers. We're not just computers. I think we're way more complex and better, which is why it takes them all this money and time to do these experiments, to just be like, there's nothing like a brain. So we got to make more human brains, or give us yours. That would be great. How about you be the data center, you be the brain, and we'll hook you up to things, and you can just do, this is your job. You can play Doom 24/7. They're going to do this. The computer of the future might not be built in a foundry. It might be grown in an incubator. So again, this is from the Harvard Science Review, okay? This is not fringe, lunatic, sci-fi. This is right now, at least that you're hearing about it, but I guarantee you, because they've been doing this for 20 years, they've been definitely hooking up. They've been messing around with humans in labs for a long, long time. A long time. Okay. Let me just check my stitches here. Looking good. Feeling good. Feeling great. How are you? No, I saw you saying, is Shane on opiates? Is he taking anything? I took 2 Advil about 3 days ago. It did nothing. I don't take pain pills. Like I've had bad back pain for years now, about 3 years now, from years of the horse riding stuff. And I was a barrel racer back in the barrel racing cowboy days, getting thrown by horses, kicked by horses, bit by horses, fallen on top of by horses. And then 10 years singing in a death metal band, breaking my bones on stage. And then on top of that, 10 years of furniture moving, which probably had the most impact on my body. But I don't take any pills like that. You know, now I'm trying to treat myself better, trying to eat better, stretching and doing all that stuff. For a while, I just live with it. I'm like, I'm in pain, and I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life. But I don't like taking stuff like any of those pills. I don't like what it does to your brain. It's just not good for you, and very addictive. Even if you're not the addictive type, you just have to be very careful. And now with fentanyl going around, like, Prince had that surgery, and then they gave him someone gave him a pill he thought was just a normal painkiller pill. It turned out to be fentanyl in disguise. What a terrible thing. And that's what killed Prince, one of our greatest to ever do it. So terrible. But I saw y'all. Shane, you guys know, if I can't read, it's just because I'm no better than one of the 800,000 lab-grown rat brains. It has nothing to do with opiates. But thank you for your concern. I do appreciate that. And again, thank you for the prayers for this. See, there's a little bit of something on there, but It's just typical ooze. The secret of the ooze. I have this update. Let's see, where do I want to start with it? Where do I want to start with this update? It was about Major General McCaslin. You remember him. He went missing. We were one of the earlier shows to report on this. It seemed like a pretty crazy story. And it did pick up steam. It's just like, what is going on? Are they going to blame the aliens for abducting Major General McCaslin and Nancy Guthrie? Like they just forgot about her. 2 old people now in the Southwest have disappeared. And it has been more than a week for him and like multiple weeks for Guthrie. All right, so the first one I saw here was I'm going to pull it from John Greenwald Jr. Remember, he's from the Black Vault. We've been talking about them a lot lately. It's the online website that has a lot of FOIA requests that he's requested over the years about UFOs. And they had some files deleted recently, randomly. Very strange. So, retired, he says here, retired Major General Neil McCaslin's wife, Susan McCaslin, posted this message about Neil today on Facebook. He is still missing, and towards the end, she makes what I assume is a joke about the best hypothesis being that aliens beamed him up to a mothership. He says, that strikes me as a strange thing to say given the circumstances. It is strange. I'd say it's a little strange. So this is from his wife. Neil McCaslin has now been missing for 1 week. There has been no indication whatsoever of where he might be. Also, I think the reports of him having any issues have been, like mental decline or anything, have been debunked. There have been dozens of researchers on foot, both official and friends of and neighbors of Neil's, who coordinate with the official sources. There have also been horseback searchers, drones, and different capabilities, helicopters, 3 different types of search dogs, neighborhoods canvassing, and looking for ring and wildlife videos. Organizations involving are the county sheriff. They're the lead on this organization, Albuquerque Field Office of the FBI, New Mexico State Search and Rescue, Albuquerque Mountain Rescue, Okay, got the Air Force. Everyone's involved. I am so grateful to one and all of their unflagging dedicated efforts and support. I would like to take this opportunity to dispel some of the misinformation circulating about Neil and his disappearance, mostly from uninformed media sources. The initial silver alert mentioned medical conditions, which some have taken to mean Alzheimer's. Neil is at some risk, but not from dementia. He was not confused and disoriented. There was no concerning Friday morning telephone call to a close relative. I have been in contact with all of his close relatives and some not so close ones. This is a complete fabrication. You see how the news spreads so interestingly in the wake of these strange stories. It is true that when Neil was in the Air Force, he had access to highly classified programs and information. He retired from the Air Force almost 13 years ago and has had only very commonly held clearances since. Only commonly held clearances since. It seems quite unlikely that he has taken to extract very dated secrets from him. Okay, so she's saying she doesn't think he was abducted to get these top secret classified information out of him. It is true that Neil had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman for Blink-182. Why would she put that part? This is a very strange thing to me. I don't know. And founder of the organization To the Stars. That is just bizarre to me. Not as bizarre as Savannah Guthrie basically quoting Silence of the Lambs in that video in the search for her mother. Anyway, Neil worked with Tom for a bit shortly after his Air Force retirement as an unpaid consultant on military and technical scientific matters to lend verisimilitude to Tom's fiction book and media activities. That is Vermilion is a song by Slipknot, not that. Anyway, Vermilion 1 and 2, that is. After the Russians hacked John Podesta's emails, this can't be real. I don't think this is real. This guy pulled this. It looks like it's from her Facebook page, but that is so strange to me. Is it not weird? If this is real, I saw this on her Facebook. That was on my phone. Let me see. I just got to see this now. Why would you mention the hacking of Podesta emails unless you're like signaling something? Oh, that's right. I have to use Facebook on my wife's phone. I have been kicked off. I've been kicked off for years. I can't pull up on this. It won't let me in. Let me in. Let me in. I'll try something else really quick. That just strikes me as a very odd thing to put in your letter about your missing husband. Am I alone? Do you think that's weird to mention? Okay, for the little parenthetical about Tom being the singer of Blink-182 is weird, but okay, for those who don't know. But to mention John Podesta, it's freaking weird. All right, it won't let me pull it up because I don't have a fake Facebook profile, and I haven't logged into Facebook for a long time. So she says Podesta's emails were hacked. There was less contact with Tom and the community pushing for release of UFO information. That's because his emails were made public. We read them last week between Tom DeLonge and John Podesta, and one of them about McCaslin. This connection is not a reason for someone to abduct Neil. Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from Roswell crash stored at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, though at this point with absolutely no sign of him. Oh, that's a crazy sound. Maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. Now, people are having a hard time. That's what John is mentioning with the joke here. People are debating whether or not that is something that you would put normally in a joke. I was talking to my wife about this. She's like, with us, we joke about everything. So it's not so far-fetched. But it just seems a little weird that she would include this. There's things in this letter that I think are strange. So she's saying maybe with this lack of evidence, it is the most likely situation that he was abducted. I just don't know. I like that she cleared it up if it is all true. But there's other things out here now from yesterday from the New York Post. Oh goodness. My pager's going off. What do you need? The mysterious disappearance of a retired Air Force Major General with deep expertise about UFOs who went missing without a trace February 28th constitutes a grave national security crisis, according to an investigative journal. So this is according to an investigative journalist. Local law enforcement said McCaslin, who's 68, disappeared after leaving Albuquerque. You guys know all this. This is a man with some of the most sensitive secrets of the United States in his head, journalist Ross Coulthart said in the latest edition of his Reality Check podcast. I don't know if I said this before. I bring Ross up quite a bit because I enjoy the things that they're talking about, whether I believe in them or not. But there's something about him I just don't trust. We ended recently an episode talking about the portal he found. And then yesterday he was talking about how, like, if you want to live, don't visit the portal. You'll die. Do not visit the portal that he found in the woods. There's just something about him. There's a lot of people in the UFO world, especially like the whistleblower space, that to me, they seem like they've been installed by the narrative engineers to push a certain narrative. As we are gearing up for this UFO disclosure chaos scenario. I don't know, there's something about him. So this whole, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. The whole article is basically referencing Ross's thoughts about McCaslin. He is the one that said this is a grave national security crisis. And I don't trust him all that much, to be quite honest with you. I appreciate listening to him. I tune in every now and then. I brought him up on the show quite a bit. There's just something about it. I just don't understand why I'm a little reluctant. The top comment on that tweet from the New York Post that is quoting Ross is from a Stephen Greenstreet, who says this entire article is based on the words of Ross Coulthart. Here is Ross Coulthart saying he lies in a field at night trying to summon space aliens with psychic powers. Let's play it.
I'm getting reasonably advanced at it. I have a beautiful field near my home where I go and lie down on the grass and I look up at the stars, and I certainly invite the phenomenon to manifest itself. I have a daughter who frequently engages with the phenomenon, and it manifests itself quite overtly to her. But my dear friends, one of whom, J.P. Haig, is gifted with the ability to engage in this way, he tells me he thinks the phenomenon is keeping me skeptical by not manifesting itself to me so overt.
So is he just saying it metaphorically, or is he actually calling upon this? But we know through declassified documents that our government has hired people in the past to do that very thing. Sorry, my dyslexia took over for a second. To do that very thing, summon aircraft or UFOs through remote viewing. And we can finish here. Good thing we're still recording, right? Oh man. By the way, I'm setting up a situation so we can have callers, and I'd like to try that tomorrow. I'll give you more details on that after this. This is from this weekend at the Daily Mail. Aliens may have been trying to contact us for decades, scientists claim, as they warn we've been looking for the wrong thing. For decades, we've been looking to the skies for any signs of aliens, but it turns out we may have been missing attempts at contact. A new study has cast doubt on our radio signal detection methods, arguing that space weather could be distorting incoming transmissions. Until now, most experiments have focused on identifying spikes in radio frequency, signals unlikely to be produced by any other natural processes in space. But experts have highlighted an overlooked complication. Even if an extraterrestrial transmitter produces a perfectly narrow radio signal, it may not remain narrow by the time it leaves its home star's atmosphere. This distortion, which happens near the point of origin, can smear the signal's frequency, meaning it can be missed by our detectors that are primed to search for more focused radio waves. Searches are often optimized for extremely narrow signals, Dr. Vishal Gujjar, astronomer at the SETI Institute and lead author of the paper, said. If a signal gets broadened by its own star's environment, it can slip below our detection thresholds, even if it's there, potentially helping explain some of the radio silence we've seen in technosignature searches. Are we hooking up 800,000 lab-grown rat brains to our satellites so we can receive these signals? My goodness. What are we even doing, people? For this study, the team analyzed radio transmissions from our own spacecraft in the solar system. Using measurements from probes, they worked out how turbulent plasma released from stars such as the sun affects radio signals. This data was then used to determine what might happen in a wide range of space environments. They explained that M-dwarf stars, I believe they prefer little people, I don't know what the Daily Mail is trying to do here, which constitute about 75% of stars in the Milky Way, have the highest likelihood of distorting signals. Yes, you must believe in space, okay, for this story to mean anything to you. The discovery could lead to better detection methods that take this into account. It means even when the signals are not perfectly razor thin, by the time they reach Earth, they could still come from extraterrestrial life. By quantifying how stellar activity can reshape narrowband signals, we can design searches that are better matched to what actually arrives at Earth, not just what might be transmitted, Grace C. Brown, co-author of the study, said. Another one of the researchers concluded that the so-called Great Silence, when it sounds like that could be a Between the Buried and Me album, when extended to the radio technosignature searchers, I'm going to repeat that. The so-called Great Silence, when extended to the radio technosignature searchers, is not solely evidence for the absence of transmitters, but also a reflection of our detection limitations arising from a mismatch between the assumed signal morphology and the broadened line shapes. So that really tells you a lot right there, okay, in that paragraph. Let's just use every word possible to make this sound like we know what we're doing here, people. We're dealing with a completely made-up atmosphere here in space and stars and extraterrestrials, and we just need funding here, okay? So we got to tell this reporter just big words, put them all together, don't need to make sense, and we'll just rely on people who don't know how to read anymore because their reading levels are unfortunately below that of the 800,000 lab-grown rat brains. So, okay, they're trying to hear from aliens. Take of that what you will. And this is what we're going to do. I record around between 10 and 12. 10 in the morning, 10, 12, and 12 in the afternoon, typically, give or take. I am going to create a Zoom link that will be operational tomorrow at that time. You click it, you join, you will talk to me. You will tell me stories, tell me anything. We go right back to it. I'll go over some stories like usual, but I'd also like to hear from you. And then it will go up at 10 o'clock at night. That link, if all goes well, should be in the description below right now. If it is not, keep an eye on my socials on Instagram and Twitter at Shane Cashman. It'll be in my Instagram stories and on my Twitter page, both at Shane Cashman. And we'll try to on the Inverted World socials as well, and on the community tabs notes with a link. That link will, it'll change daily, I guess, unless I can keep the same one. I'm not really sure how that works. Like I told you, I am a caveman that just thought out, how do you think I got this forehead? It is prehistoric. This is an antediluvian forehead. No, do not say Nephilim. It's just an old forehead. But I want to get back to calls. I want to hear from everybody. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And if you're available around those times, you can call in. It'll be audio only, as usual. I will take it through Zoom, and we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I'll have some hiccups, but it'll be a lot of fun. And I'm going to try to start that tomorrow on Tuesday. So what is that? March 10th. It is March 9th right now, and I'm letting you all know. So if you're available, it might be no one because it's a weird time, but so it's 10 o'clock at night. It might be a weird time, so I get it, but we'll start. We'll see how it goes. I will keep an eye on it while I'm going through stories. We'll bring you in, and you can tell us, we can go back spooky stories, things you've seen, thoughts on stories we've been talking about. I mean, we haven't heard from anybody about the Epstein files. So if you have thoughts on those, anything at all, you can call in and let us know. If you've got theories about the world, things are happening. It is heating up, to say the least. So let me know. As always, I appreciate you guys. Very grateful. Thank you very much for tuning in. And please do like, share, subscribe, and comment. It does help us out in the vastness of the algorithm out there. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed night. I'll see you tomorrow.